Episode 6 opens with Hui Ju being dressed and prepared. Lee calls out from outside, urging her to hurry up. Hui Ju shouts back, asking, "Do you have absolutely no patience?" She intends to step out and scold him, but Seok stops her, insisting, "We still need to finish getting you ready." Pay no mind to what he says. Choi also approaches Lee and asks, "What are you doing here?" It's time for the dance, yet Hui Ju still isn't ready. Lee calls out to Hui Ju once more. Finally, Hui Ju steps out. Upon seeing her, Leon's eyes widen in sheer astonishment, for she looks absolutely gorgeous. Meanwhile, a court lady finishes dressing Lan and asks, "Do you truly wish to attend this event?" Lan replies, "I have no choice but to be there. My uncle has expressly ordered me to attend." Jingyu also approaches Iron. Iron asks, "Did you really come?" Jingyu replies, "I had to. How could I possibly decline your request?" He then takes her hand, and the two descend together. Kim Joog, standing nearby, approaches Iron and says, "Thank you for inviting me." Iron replies, "It's no trouble at all." Iron then turns to speak with Jingyu, explaining, "This is Joog from the Kim family. I intend to make her Leon's wife. What do you think of her?" Jingyu is just about to offer his opinion when an announcement is made. Leon and Hui Ju have arrived. The pair look stunning together. Iron gives the signal to start the music. The two begin to dance. Leon glances around the room and remarks to Hui Ju, "All eyes are on us." Hui Ju replies, "I know, but that alone isn't enough." Leon smiles and says, "I know, that is precisely why I've prepared something more." After dancing, he sits down. He proposes to her, presenting a ring, and asks her to marry him. Witnessing all of this, Irene is left in shock. While the two were dancing together, Irene spoke to Jingyu, asking, "What exactly is going on here?" Jingyu replies, "This is all a farewell gift for Hui Ju, something Leon asked me to arrange. It was his request, and I had no choice but to comply." The crowd cheers loudly, urging Hui Ju to say yes to the proposal. Hui Ju eventually does just that and accepts the ring. Later, the couple approaches King Leon, who is seated in his chair, and says, "We seek your blessings." However, Irene gestures toward her son, silently urging him not to grant his blessing. But he disregards his mother's wishes and declares, "My blessings are with you both. May you two be happy forever." Jingyu steps aside to get some fresh air. Irene follows him and says, "Permission for this marriage cannot be granted. You must take charge of this situation. Use your authority." Jingyu replies, "I cannot do that. Leon has proposed to Hui Ju, and he did so in front of everyone." Irene insists, "You are our only remaining option. You must do something." However, he ignores her words and walks away. Meanwhile, Heejing arrives on the premises by car. Choi is there to meet her. Heejing asks him, "Is there no network coverage here?" Choi explains, "There are a great many guests present, so the network signals have been blocked." Heejing then asks, "What about a wired connection? Is that available?" Choi replies, "Very well, come with me." Guests approach Hui Ju and Leon to offer their congratulations on the upcoming marriage. Shortly thereafter, Jingyu and Irene also arrive on the scene. Hui Ju glances toward Leon, silently urging him to take action. Leon then approaches Irene and gently takes her hand. He was asking her to dance. Later, Irene complies. She tells him, "I never expected that you would betray me. But did you really think I wouldn't do anything about it?" Leon replies, "Yes, I know you can't do a thing, because the king himself has now granted us permission to marry. Are you going to go against the king?" Later, he adds, "You amended the will of my brother, the man who was the king here previously. Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" Upon hearing this, Irene storms off in anger, though she remains somewhat shaken, as she had no idea how Leon could possibly know such things. Leon calls out to her, "Don't get too angry. Everyone is watching us. You ought to look happy." Meanwhile, we turn our attention to Hui Ju. She approaches Jingyu and asks him to dance, extending her hand toward him. Jingyu glances at the ring on her finger and begins to recall a scene from the past. Back in his school days, he was sitting alone when two other students approached him. They were discussing Hui Ju, wondering where she might be, as the awards ceremony was about to begin shortly. Jingyu went off to look for her. He discovered that Hui Ju had gotten stuck in an elevator. He stepped forward to help her, reaching out his hand to pull her to safety. Ju grabbed Jingyu's hand and dragged him away. "Where are you taking me?" Jingyu asked. Ju replied, "The awards ceremony is about to start. If I tell them I got stuck in the elevator, no one will believe me. But if you say it, everyone will take your word for it." "All right," Jingyu agreed. He then took her by the hand and hurried away with her. We return to the present moment, where the two of them are dancing together. Ju says to Jingyu, "You have to give your permission for the wedding. If you leave me, I won't have anyone left to trust." Jingyu says, "All right, I will stand by you, but you have to promise me that you won't lie to me ever again." Ju replies, "Okay, I promise." In the next scene, Ju and Lien are together. Ju gazes at the ring she is wearing, looking delighted. She says, "I know this ring belonged to your mother. I first saw it on her hand when I was a little girl. Can I really keep it? After all, it was your mother's." Lien replies, "You can't keep it permanently. That is why you must return it once our divorce is finalized. It is our national treasure." He then adds, "My mother never actually liked these earrings, because they are incredibly heavy." He begins to open up about himself, revealing, "My mother loved me, but my father detested me." He becomes visibly upset as he speaks. Ju notices his distress. She then playfully tosses her hair back. Lien watches her intently. He gently caresses her face, gazing at her as he reaches out to touch her. Meanwhile, elsewhere, we see Choi in the company of Hyojung. Choi is admiring various flowers, arranging them carefully. Hyojung identifies the different flowers for him, naming them and explaining their significance. He asks, "How do you know all this?" Hyojung replies, "Because my parents run a flower shop." Just then, Ju and Lien arrive on the scene. Ju asks Hyojung, "What has the public reaction been?" Hyojung shows her several articles. Seeing them, Ju beams with joy as she reads about how Lien had proposed to her. Ju instructs her, "Tell the PR team that I will be giving an interview tomorrow." Hyojung assures her, "Don't worry, I've already made all the necessary arrangements." Ju then turns to Lien and asks, "May I wear the earrings for the interview tomorrow?" Lien replies, "Do whatever you wish, it's entirely up to you." Taezu and Daing look at the news regarding the marriage proposal together and are overjoyed. Daing exclaims, "We are going to become part of the royal family." However, Taezu does not appear happy. Daing reassures him, "Don't worry, the castle group will be yours." But Taezu replies, "That's not the point. I'm thinking about the man who tried to kill my sister, he's dead now. But how did it all happen? Something about this feels off too. Me." Daing concedes, "You do have a point there." Meanwhile, Sangwon approaches Iron and asks, "What is this I'm hearing? Lien is about to get married. How could you let this happen? This cannot be permitted." Iron responds, "I already told you, there is nothing we can do. Lien knows about the king's will. I suspect she must possess some evidence. As long as she holds onto that, we are powerless to act." Later, a flashback sequence unfolds. Iron's husband, the king, is seen poring over his will, declaring, "I cannot remain on the throne." The king then adds, "I do not want to die." He proceeds to affix his royal seal to the document. However, Iron snatches the document, tears it to shreds, and coldly remarks, "In that case, you might as well just die." Witnessing this entire sequence raises strong suspicions that Iron herself may have been the one who murdered her husband. Sangwon then asks Iron, "So, what is our next move? Ju could eventually become Lien's weakness. We might be able to use this to our advantage." In the following scene, we see Taezu and Daing speaking with Hanguk. They show him an article detailing how Lien proposed to Ju and how the king of that realm has bestowed his blessings upon the couple. "We can finally become part of the royal family," they declare. "Our stock values are going to skyrocket. You don't need to worry about a thing." Hanguk listens intently, then turns to Daing and instructs her, "Call your parents. We need to send someone into the palace, someone Ju can trust and confide in." Later, the two of them were on their way to the company. Daeun said to Tae-ju, "I got the impression that your father doesn't like Ju, that he actually hates her." But Tae-ju replied that there was no truth to that. Shortly after, the two of them approached Ju. Upon seeing Ju's ring, Daeun asked about its value. However, Ju offered no response. Tae-ju then brought up the subject of the castle group, saying, "You'll be moving into the castle soon. Who is going to manage this group after that? I think I could handle it. You can't just hand the group over to a complete stranger." Ju looked at him and asked, "What exactly are you trying to say? By the way, did you complete the task I assigned you?" He began to answer in a roundabout, evasive manner. Ju shouted at him, demanding that he give her a straight answer. Finally, he confessed, "I found the person you were looking for, but he's dead." Ju screamed in frustration, crying out, "How could he die? I should have killed him with my own hands." In the next scene, Ju was on her way to give an interview alongside Ha-young. She read through the list of questions, noting one where the public had asked, "What are Leon's strengths and weaknesses?" Ju scoffed, "What kind of questions are these? They should be asking things like, where did you two share your first kiss? Or, if you got into a fight inside a room, who would win?" In the following scene, she arrived for the interview and began answering the questions. She was asked, "How did the two of you first meet?" The interviewer added, "We know about your school days, and back then, you and Lien didn't seem to get along at all." Ju smiled and replied, "That's not true at all. We actually liked each other back then." Later, she recalled several past moments, specifically, times when Lien had told her, "I'm doing all of this for you. I want to protect you." Ju explains that he wants to protect her because she is as fragile as glass. Choi approaches Lien as well and asks, "Are you free? You really ought to watch Ju's interview." As soon as Lien watches it, or rather, reads the transcript, he bursts into laughter. In the next scene, we see Hee-young and Ju, who have just arrived at Lien's private residence. All the servants come out to welcome them. Now, inside the residence, Ju is accompanied by Ah-room, who is busy unpacking and arranging her belongings. Ah-room eyes Ju's handbag with admiration. Ju notices this and remarks that she seems to like it, but she declines to offer it to her. Just then, Hee-young enters the room. She tells Ah-room, "I'll take care of everything from here on out. You may leave." Now, Ju recalls a past conversation. While they were discussing PR strategies, Lien had told Ju, "You have one more task to complete. You need to move into my private residence." Ju had retorted, "I won't do that. One moment you're kicking me out, and the next you're telling me to come back in. I'm not going to listen to you." However, Hee-young had interjected, "Very well, that is exactly what we shall do. I'll start packing immediately." Lien had also added that there was a spy present at the residence. Later, he showed them a photograph and a resume revealing the spy to be Ah-room. Choi had suggested, "We should just get rid of her," but Lien had replied, "I can't do that. I suspect she is actually working for someone else." Back in the present, Lien asks Ju over the phone, "Have you arrived yet?" She answers, "Yes." Lien replies, "Good. Come to the palace tomorrow, I'll send a car to pick you up. We need to start planning the wedding." In the following scene, we see Ju arriving at the palace, accompanied by Young-woo. The two of them approach Lien together. Lien, meanwhile, pretends to be engrossed in reading a book. However, when told that Jongyu would be accompanying them, Lien's demeanor shifts. He refrains from acting out and appears somewhat downcast. The two of them walked over and took their seats in front of him. Lien observed them both and asked, "Did the two of you come here together?" They denied it, however, explaining that they had merely run into each other at the gate. Outside, Choi could be seen approaching Ha-young. He intended to discuss some personal matters, but the arrival of Jin-sook prevented him from doing so. Meanwhile, inside, the others were busy planning the wedding. Jongyu was estimating the potential costs involved. However, he did not reveal the figures openly. Instead, he whispered them directly into Ju's ear. Upon hearing the amount, Ju was left utterly shocked. In her astonishment, she suddenly dropped her cup of tea. Jongyu immediately began tending to her, and Lien, witnessing this entire exchange, felt a pang of jealousy. He turned to Jongyu and remarked, "Ju will soon become my wife. You really ought to mind your manners." However, Ju interjected, telling Lien, "He already knows everything about us." Elsewhere, we see Da-young emerging from her parents' home, accompanied by Tae-ju. However, she is confronted by that same friend, the one who had previously spoken to Da-young and made disparaging remarks about her parents. The friend asked her, "What are you doing here?" She then glanced at Tae-ju and added, "And what about you?" Weren't you estranged from your sister? Tae Ju was about to offer a response, but Da Young cut him off, asserting, we are close. Haven't you heard? Lien has proposed to Hee Ju. We are soon to become members of the royal family, and I have no other choice. I suppose I will have to move into the palace. Upon hearing this, the friend was left completely stunned. Lien, who was still with Hee Ju, asked her, why did you tell Jongyu about all of this? But Hee Ju replied, I didn't do anything. Ha Young and I were simply talking, and he happened to overhear our entire conversation. Lien argues that, come what may, she could have simply made an excuse. However, Hee Ju insists, I couldn't do that. She adds, besides, it worked out for the best, as he can help us, he knows everything about us. But Lien counters, you can't just place your trust in a stranger like that. Hee Ju replies, he has known me since childhood and has always stood by my side, we can trust him. Meanwhile, Lien continues to look for flaws in Jingyu. Hee Ju then challenges him, and what about you? I never trusted you before, yet look at me now, I am trusting you. I think I need to go ahead with the contract. Lien agrees, alright, let's draw lots. They proceed to do just that. Lien had already made it clear, once our divorce goes through, you won't receive a single penny. Hee Ju responds, I don't want any. I'm not hungry for money, I have plenty of my own. Hee Ju adds, whatever transpires between us must be kept strictly confidential. Lien replies, I have no problem with that. Not that anything is actually going to happen between us, anyway. Just then, they realize that Irene is approaching. They quickly hide their slips of paper. Lien grabs Hee Ju's hand. At that moment, Irene arrives and spots the two of them together. Hee Ju pulls her hand free. She then reveals her true identity. Irene says to them, I found out that you two are together. We'll be family soon enough, she tells Hee Ju. Come on, let's all have dinner together. Hee Ju agrees, alright. Meanwhile, we turn to Hyo-jung, who is at a restaurant with Choi. Choi remarks, right now, Hee Ju is with Irene. The three of them are having dinner together. I worry that Hee Ju might get indigestion. But Hyo-jung reassures him, don't worry. She has a strong constitution when it comes to eating. Choi then muses, since the two of them are living together, I have a feeling they might just end up falling in love. However, she stated that this was impossible, as the two of them were constantly surrounded by the public. The probability of such a thing happening was 0%. Choi then turns to Hee Ju and asks, alright, what about you? What kind of person do you like? She is unable to find the words to answer. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the other three were having dinner. Irene urged Hee Ju to have a drink. Although Lien had advised against it, Hee Ju drank anyway. In the next scene, Irene appears intoxicated. She looks at Lien and begins spouting incoherent nonsense. She starts by talking about her late husband, accusing Lien, you killed him just to seize the throne. I know you had a hand in his death, and now you intend to kill your own nephew in the same manner so that you can claim the throne for yourself. Lien became absolutely furious at these accusations. Hee Ju, who had been observing the entire scene, tried to calm Lien down by gently taking his hand. She then stood up and told Irene, the palace gates will be closing soon, we need to leave. She led Lien outside and said, I am stepping back for now only because we aren't married yet. Lien told Hee Ju not to speak in such a manner. Hee Ju replied, once we are married, I will never back down again. I will teach a lesson to anyone who tries to trouble you. I will clear the path for you. Lien responded, very well. That is precisely why I don't want to sleep at the palace tonight. Let's go out somewhere. In the next scene, the two are seen inside a car, with Lien behind the wheel. He remarks, I love driving. I have permission to drive cars, though not motorcycles, I'm not sure why. But whenever I'm driving, I feel as though I'm soaring through the air. Hee Ju looks at him and asks, do you truly wish to fly? In the following scene, she takes him to a location filled with numerous boats. The moment she claps her hands, the area lights up with illumination. Lien looks around and asks, what is all this? Did you rent this entire place? But she refuses, claiming that everything belongs to her. Lien asks, are you planning to propose to me? Hee Ju replies, I think you watch too much drama. It's nothing like that. If you want to fly, let's go inside. Later, the two of them went inside. Meanwhile, we see King Lan, who who rushes over to Choi and Hae-yoon. Court Lady Jin Suk is also with them. He asks them, "Where are my uncle and Hee-ju? I need to speak with them." However, she simply replies, "I don't know where they went." Hee-ju leads Lien inside the boat and offers him something to eat. But Lien says, "I cannot eat this, for I am of royal blood." Hee-ju retorts, "No royal is allowed to marry a commoner, so why are you doing it? No one can see you here now, it is just the two of us. You can do whatever you wish." She offers him the food again. This time, he eats it and even samples several other dishes. However, in the next scene, he steps out of the boat and gazes up at the sky. He begins to vomit and says, "I think I've got indigestion." Hee-ju asks him, "Have you really never eaten anything before? Come on, let me cure your indigestion." She brings him back inside, ties a thread around his thumb, and pricks it with a needle. Now, we witness a scene identical to the one from the movie Titanic. Hee-ju stands with her arms spread wide. Lien stands behind her and holds her tightly. Hee-ju waves her arms and exclaims, "Look. I'm flying." Lien asks, "What about me? Am I the only one not flying?" Hee-ju replies, "It's all right, you can step forward. I'll hold you." However, he declines. But just as Hee-ju begins to lean backward, the two of them tumble down onto the bed. Hee-ju attempts to get up, but he holds her in a tight embrace. Later, he climbed up beside her and said, "You told me I could do anything." He moved closer to her and kissed her. Hee-ju, too, reached out, cupped his face, and returned the kiss. The episode concludes with a scene set just before the event, where Lien had gone to meet Hee-ju. At that moment, Hee-ju suggested, "Let's dance. We need to dance right here, we can get some practice in beforehand." Lien agreed to her idea, and the two of them danced together for quite some time. They drew close to one another, gazing into each other's eyes, looking incredibly happy. With this, the episode comes to an end. We'll meet again in episode 7. Until then, bye.